You best believe this little girl right here know how to use her constitutional rights and are getting ready. They expect, if there's a finesse in this election, they are expecting all-out civil war. If there's a finesse. Because no one in their right mind is actually going to vote for the Democrats anymore, because now the Democrats can no longer hide their true purpose. They're anti-God, they're anti-family, they destroy everything, they're anti-babies, they're pro-transition in children, anti-God, did I mention that? Anti-Bible, and they can't even hide it anymore. So the only way that they can actually do something to actually really win this is if they finessed it. And guess what? Karen and her family, they're waiting for this finesse. They're waiting for it.
Or Kaylee and a 7-year-old son, Colton.
And drop them in that hole and that.
Now look at this. Look at this. We have a problem, Elder Lawyer, getting city council and others in the school board to help our children read, especially the little boys, read beyond a 3rd or 4th grade level. But look at what they're training their children to do at grade level. Look at this.
7-year-old daughter, Kaylee, and a 7-year-old son, Colton.
7-year-old son is learning how to what? Make his own food through a garden. I need y'all to check this out. The contrast. Let's stop for a moment and contrast this. You got a brother who comes with the Bible trying to fight this progressive woke garbage they've placed in our school to destroy our families. And their police is surrounding him. But where she is, this woman here, she has the freedom to not only make sure her money goes towards the taxes where the schools in her areas have the top education in the country, but also she teaches her children how to self-sustain during their grade learning years.
And drop them in that hole and that.
When I first started learning how to grow food, it was with my grandpa. It is a
Fair
way
use.
of feeling self-reliant to be able to grow what you want to eat.
This
Everything
basket, this basket right here, that looks like what we usually grab out of our garden. Right here. Right there. Okay. She has some eggs from the chickens. I usually get Lawyer be giving me some eggs sometimes, him and Shawan. We have what? We have squash, right? Or zucchini. I have that growing all over the place. Tomatoes growing all over the place, and herbs. There's nothing more fulfilling than actually eating the food that was grown with your own hands. Real nutrients, you till the ground it came out of, and the food produces for those who work for it. And guess what? The food tastes absolutely amazing when you grow it yourself.
It's been something that's been part of my life since I was a really small child. My grandma taught me how to can when I was 3 years old, and I've continued.
Her grandmother taught her how to can when she was 3 years old. Folks, let me tell you, we got jars of food and all of that. And when you jar this stuff can last 15 years. But guess what? The sister looked at her elder lawyer and said, you know what? She's bat crap crazy. Mm-hmm. At any time, if this woman wanted to, she could sustain her family for a long time without ever stepping her foot into one supermarket. Look behind her.
You're doing it for the last 33 years. All right, let me take you to my prepping room. Over here is long-term food storage. Long-term food storage is food supply that actually has a 25-year shelf life.
And we have that too. And I'm putting this out there for you all, folks, because why? if you don't get this stuff while you can get it now, with what they are about to do in this country, with destroying the dollar, one of these buckets will be worth its weight in gold. A matter of fact, one of these buckets will be worth more than gold because you cannot eat gold nuggets.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm putting it out there now.
I'm a doomsday prepper and I prep for everything, whether the grid was to collapse and the power turns off, if there's another pandemic, civil war, civil unrest, or World War III. We always prepare for the worst case scenario and we always hope for the best case. This is our first aid bin. We have antibiotics, inhalers, water filtration. We store most of our electronics in EMP bags or Faraday cages. They are just to protect if there was ever an EMP, which is an electromagnetic pulse, that could affect or scramble stuff. So right here is one of our newest preps that we've added into prepping is learning how to freeze dry. So we're able to now create and make our own MREs, which are meals ready to eat. Right now, my new food goal is 3-year food supply.
Hold up, Elder Lloyd, that's something I don't got.
That we've to protect if there was ever an EMP, which is
something
an
I don't got right here.
Pulse that could affect or scramble stuff. So right here is one of our newest preps that we've added into prepping is learning how to freeze dry. So
freeze dry. Okay. That's one thing I don't have.
we're able to now create and make our own MREs, which are meals ready to eat. Right now, my new food goal is 3-year food supply. And then our next goal is to go completely off the grid. We have anything from top ramen, seasonings, coffee, pasta, oatmeal, to all the food that I preserve myself. We have roughly about a year to a year and a half worth of food for our family of 5. We have carrots and pickles.
Now let's skip a little bit.
In case of an emergency where we want to put our family in or around and to keep them protected. Our bug out bags, in case of an emergency where we have to actually leave the house in a hurry, we just grab a bag and go. We also store up on plate carriers and body armor. I need to be prepared to make sure that my kids are taken care of at all costs. Run active shooter drills for emergency situations. So why not bring that to your home life? It doesn't need to be an active shooter. It can be a natural disaster, an earthquake. Our kids love and thrive on knowing what to do in an emergency, and it brings them a sense of calm versus a sense of panic.
What was Derek's view of your prepping a few years ago?
But Elder Lawyer, one thing I wanted to show real quick is that they have these actual I don't know if you have one of those, Elder Lawyer. It's a laser round where if, of course, you would have to be a legal carrier. Mm-hmm. But if you're not a criminal, whatever the case is, and you're exercising your constitutional rights to have protection, or right to bear arms, which is your right, then this round goes into whatever caliber of practice I would say firearm that one might have. And you can actually shoot targets without actually firing rounds. You can practice. Yeah. You have one of those?
Yeah, I got one right in front of me.
Huh? I
have one right in front of me, actually.
Yeah, I purchased 3, and I got one downstairs right now. And you can actually set up a target place in your own home. Mm-hmm. No fear of noise going off, no fear in harming anyone. Just to practice your aim and your target. And you'll be surprised how accurate it makes you. They have these where you can put a caliber in, and it doesn't, it can't harm anyone. But it's used, you put a target up, you got your own phone and all that, and you set up, and it actually teaches you how to aim. Very, very, very good tools, right?
Yep.
Very good tools. So what I'm saying is it's okay to exercise your constitutional right as far as to be able to protect yourselves, okay? Mm-hmm. And of course, when doing that, you go through all the legal means and make sure you get the proper instructors so that you're careful with protecting yourselves, not to harm others, okay? But still, having a right to protect yourself is a right. Okay? Even Christ said what? Sell your cloak and get a sword. Okay? But I'll talk about that more so during my Patreon. I'm going to Patreon, and we're going to compare some prepping tips amongst each other this coming Friday. I have a lot of that. What we see, my family has these things: a bug out bag, a bag to grab in case of an emergency that breaks out where you can't get home or whatever the case is. And you may need some food, Band-Aids. You may need a blanket, one of those foil blankets to keep you warm while you think about your next move or whatever the case is. So I'm going to be talking about that this coming Friday. Okay, we're going to compare and we're going to challenge each other to actually begin prepping for our own families. And I want to talk about that this coming Friday on Patreon. So if that interests you, let's talk about that on Patreon.com/AGathering144 for those who are interested in that. Skip that.
And always thought it was a little extreme.
What did you know about prepping before you met Christian?
And again, this is for fair use, educational purposes only. Obviously, the people on the outside of the inner cities get it. And those who don't understand, according to prophecy, what's going on, are going to be caught up at the behest of having to depend on everything from the government. And folks, you don't want to be there.
So what I knew about prepping prior to meeting my wife was a whole lot of nothing.
I can't take him anywhere with me.
My opinion changed towards prepping and being prepared was right around the pandemic. Seeing the chaos, we had enough, supplies to last us a long time. And it was a really good thing to see as our generations changed that this is a skill that we need to pass down to our kids, to our communities, and, our friends and colleagues and et cetera.
So it's not just them. If something break out, they're going to know how to come together and ration their food and to protect their resources in a state of crisis. And that was the difference between what happened in Katrina when these people were cutting off the bridge because they's like, y'all not coming over the bridge to take what we have been preparing for. Okay? That's how I'm going to tell you, folks.
Hey, my friends and family always used to tease me about being a prepper.
Remember when we were at comp 2 years ago and you were like, do you have all your together? And I was like, nope, not even close. I thought you were back. It's crazy.
So what made you want to come to me for prepping if you thought I was bat crazy at first?
The pandemic, right? We all went and stocked our freezers so they couldn't.
I did.
You couldn't even see straight. Yeah, I know you didn't. After, this.
And we're in an election season right now.
Election that's going on.
People are talking about civil war and civil unrest and
Yep.
Whether you see it now or you see it later, you need to start preparing now.
The troll.
Now let's see. So they think, Elder Lawyer, that something might go down during the election or near the election time that may lead to some level of civil unrest. And NATO is putting out there to prepare for civil unrest during the election. I'm going to tell you that right now. Let's talk about this real quick. And I want to show this before we open up the lines, but a few things I wanted to read real quick beforehand. What is this? OTAN, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Resilience, Civil Preparedness, and Article 3. Each NATO member country needs to be resilient in order to withstand a major shock, such as a natural disaster, failure of critical infrastructure, a hybrid armed attack, Resilience is the individual and collective capacity to prepare for, resist, respond to, and quickly recover from shocks and disruptions, and to ensure the continuity of the alliance activities. Civil preparedness is a central pillar of allies' resilience and a critical enabler in the alliance's collective defense.